Hello again, YouTube. I've got a special message for Michigan homeowners that have lost their homes in foreclosure to a company known as MERS, or Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems Incorporated. Basically, the mortgage industry became a shell game within the last 2 decades, primarily. And what happened here was a bank hands out mortgage with no criteria. The subprime market, I'm sure you've heard of the subprime market. You don't have to prove your income. You don't have to show you're qualified for the loan. You get the loan, and you're off and running. Well, the mortgage company that gave you the loan without the criteria, in many cases, sold your loan into what's called a REMIC. It's a trust, and your mortgage, along with up to thousands of other mortgages, were all put into this REMIC, where the note and the deed were bifurcated, nullifying both. Well, now the originating lender that made the mortgage, or gave the mortgage to the mortgagor, to get your mortgage into the REMIC, they sell the mortgage into the REMIC at about 1.5 times its face value. Now, keep in mind, $100,000 mortgage, after you pay it off after 30 years, you're paying like $350,000 based on the interest. Okay, so they short sell the note, but they get paid immediately. And they're getting paid immediately for the sale into the REMIC at 1.5 times the face value. So if it's a $100,000 loan, when they sell it to the REMIC, they get $150,000 and they're done. Well, many people don't know this, but when the note is paid off like that, no matter who pays it off, the original mortgagee, or the originating lender, is supposed to reconvey the deed back to the mortgagor, or the homeowner. If you stop in to AT&T and pay my cell phone bill, AT&T is not going to come back to me for that money, right? Well, the banks didn't really want to, buy these notes with the idea that nobody would ever pay for them again. So this whole reconveyance thing has been swept under the rug. Because, everybody understands, well, the mortgagor never paid for it, so they should continue to pay. But the original mortgage was paid off and the mortgage no longer existed. The property should have been reconveyed back to the homeowner, and that never happened. Instead, they keep the promissory note, and, in this being held by this shell game that MERS is participating in, because MERS is actually a creation of the nation's 5 largest banks. So MERS creates this company, Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems Inc. They're not a originator. They're not a lender, and they can't be considered a mortgagee because they don't lend money. They may now, because they're trying to hide this massive fraud. Anyways, what happens is sometimes these notes are sold cheaper to other mortgage lenders or banks or whatever you want to call them. So Countrywide originates a loan. They can sell it to somebody else at 1.2 times the face value before it actually goes into the REMIC. And this other bank may coordinate it with some other packages or whatever and sell it to a REMIC later at 1.5 the face value or whatever. But what I'm saying is that the money is shuffled around between these different entities before it goes into the REMIC. And none of this is recorded, of course. And the reason they created MERS was so that they would have a single frontline means at attacking people's personal residential property, their homes. And this company claims to have an unbifurcated deed and promissory note that they can foreclose with, even though MERS basically just is the registration system, and the actual purchaser of your mortgage debt is recorded and understood only by MERS, which is, like I said, a company created by the nation's 5 largest banks, whatever. So, behind the scenes, The actual promissory note is changing hands. It's been bifurcated already. Eventually it ends up into a remic, or at least that's one possibility, and that's happened millions of times here in this country. And then this remic is the best definition. It's like a juicer. Okay, all these mortgages go into this trust, this remic, and they flip the switch, and now all these carrots are now juice. The carrots represented individual mortgages, and the juice represents all the mortgages combined. Now, you can never pull a carrot back out of that juice. It's impossible. And that should make sense to everybody. But this is what MERS has done. They're trying to pull these carrots out of the juice. Keep in mind that your mortgage was converted to a security and then sold on the stock exchange. Okay, once your mortgage was converted from a security, or from a mortgage to a security, it can never again be a mortgage. And nobody can ever foreclose. Why? Because it's a different thing now. You know, this was supposed to help everybody, but it's only helped the banks. This is a huge thing. And in 2011, the Michigan Appellate Court decided that MERS did not have standing to foreclose on Michigan homeowners. And the banks, of course, filed an appeal because they didn't like that decision. Well, the Michigan Supreme Court said, whoa up, we're not going to grant your leave for appeal because we don't want to rehear any of the arguments. Oh, but we're going to overrule the Michigan Appellate Court. That is the obstruction of justice, folks. Basically, the Michigan Supreme Court made a ruling that essentially barred victims of bank fraud, victims of fraud being conducted by MERS, to help out the banks. Hell, the banks need all the help they can get, right? I mean, they didn't just get trillions of dollars from the federal government of our tax money. Now they need the folks like the Michigan Supreme Court, those 7 people over there, Supreme Court justices, to serve their interest too. The banks, they got paid by insurance. They got paid by the FDIC. They got paid because the mortgage was converted to a security and earned profit on the internet or on the stock exchange. And the banks were paid by the mortgage insurance that was paid for by the homeowners. And now guess what? The banks are getting paid back again because the Michigan Supreme Court is preventing people like myself and every Michigander out there who's ever been wrongfully foreclosed on by MERS by barring any future litigation against them for having fraudulently foreclosed on their property. Isn't that sweet? Nice and tidy, right? Well, it's just wrong. It's just absolutely wrong. 7 ways to Sunday, MERS does not have grounds to foreclose. It's just straight up fraud. It's so straight up fraud that they don't want cases going to court because eventually this will be proven. And the Michigan Supreme Court's complicity in this fraud is obvious. Michigan is without courts, folks. That means justice is going to spill to the streets. People going to court today thinking that they're going to get any shake at all are seriously being misled. Seriously misled. Even the federal courts in Michigan. And this is all in protection of a public trust. Now, we as people need to understand that we are only governed with our consent. And when our state's highest court is in the business of obstructing justice, it's time to say, whoa up, peeps. This is just wrong. This is not only just wrong, but you're fired. And, oh, by the way, yada, yada, yada. Read between the lines. The reason the Michigan Supreme Court overturned the Michigan Appellate Court decision of 2011 having to do with MERS was specifically to stop litigation, wrongful foreclosure litigation in Michigan courts. That is the obstruction of justice. Yeah, they don't have standing to foreclose. And oh, by the way, they've already done it a couple 100,000 times. But, we're kind of liable for that too, so we better, flip this one over. Well, that's what they did. Two wrongs don't make it right. And that's what we're experiencing here in Michigan, and I would presume in a great many other states. Times are tough, folks. Times are tough enough without losing our judiciary. Without having, it'd be better, to be honest with you, if the judiciary didn't even pretend anymore. They were just gone. Because it's just an exercise. It's a futile exercise. It's a time-consuming, dollar-consuming exercise where the only winners are the lawyers. Which, by the way, are typically the only ones that enter office to preserve and protect their own. To salvage and self-preserve this system that never was right to begin with. Monopolies are illegal, but the biggest monopoly in this country is run and maintained by our justice system. How does that make sense to anybody? I've interviewed a lot of lawyers in my time, and one thing I can say with certainty is that most lawyers will tell you, and they've been trained to tell you, that you need a lawyer. You need a lawyer. Yeah. You don't have to hire me, but you definitely need a lawyer. Well, you got to understand, people, when every lawyer is saying this, all lawyers get hired. You don't need to be the recipient of every interaction that you have with somebody that needs a lawyer. So we've got this self-perpetuating monopoly against the people run by the Michigan Bar and the American Bar Associations. It's all about self-preservation now. And we're seeing it every day. We are seeing it every day. Anyways, I'm trying to keep these quick. I'll try and be better. More later.